starting to be displaced from their homes.
Let's start over because I forgot to hit the mute button. Thank you, chatters. You guys getting us out there now?
Thank y'all. Are
Yeah,
we live
thank you.
now
Are we
from
live
the
now?
Vital Spaces location in sunny Santa Fe, New Mexico?
Can we be heard? Are we good?
I think so.
Waiting
They're
for the thumbs up.
here.
All right. So, take two. Welcome to the 505OMATIC Fridays live stream, coming to you from the artist formerly known as Joanne Fabrics, the Vital Spaces Art Studios, here on Cerritos. And would you mind scrolling up on the prompter so I can get the exact address?
Oh,
Yep.
And they are celebrating signing a 2-year lease this weekend. There's going to be a party. Check out their website, Instagram, etc. It is definitely a community event.
Yeah, the party is tonight, right?
I believe so.
Awesome. And this is such a wonderful space. They'll be here for 2 years. It's such a huge resource
At
for
least.
people. At least, hopefully forever. Yeah. Come on by. I'm sure they would love to see you. Some of us will be here, I think. So, getting introductions out of the way, my name is Shark. My pronouns are they and them.
Julian, I'm one of your 505OMATIC reporters. I also use they, them pronouns.
And our producer.
J. Alex, the technologist.
There he is over there without a camera.
Yes. So, we today will be talking a little about fire and ice, which are the two things that I feel are currently terrorizing our city of Santa Fe.
We love extremes.
Yep, and maybe this will just be how it goes for a long time now. Climate change is a bummer, fascism is a bummer. We're going to get a little more into that. We're going to start off today with the fires, though. I hear you have a little information.
Yeah, in addition to just the news of it, the fact that it's affecting people, it's affecting animals. We've had bears in the city. And from my understanding, not all of those rescued bears get to stay alive, so that's always a bummer. There have been over 650 people that are actually fighting this thing. But more than anything else, because this is an important community thing, the smoke affects our health. There's a 531 visibility rule to assess the smoke risk. So I don't know if you have asthma or if you know anyone who does.
I had childhood asthma, and I like not breathing smoke. I stopped smoking, so I wouldn't do that anymore, so...
Yep, it's a big deal whether you are young and healthy or whether you are older or whether you're like me and you're sometimes just so very, very frail. So, and the rule is a visibility rule, so you can actually like peep it. You don't have to get online to see. If you can see 5 miles away, it's probably pretty safe. If you are super young or if you're elderly or if you have any sort of lung issues, you probably still need to chill out in a filtered room.
Trying to think about what 5 miles away would be like as the crow flies. That's probably like Santa Fe Baldy or something from a lot of towns.
Yeah, it's kind of like my house to like the big cross at the high point, I think is like,
Okay.
it might be 3-ish miles. So like
Okay.
figuring that out, like it is kind of hard because just as a default, like how far are the mountains?
Yeah.
And then the answer is if you can't see the mountains, it's not necessarily a risk, but it does mean you need to start paying attention.
Okay.
And the next one down is 3 miles. And that one I think is a little bit easier because most of us know our 3-mile radius. And so like if you look outside and you can't see like downtown or wherever it is that you are or like the mesa, that's a risk where you need to be concerned even if you are healthier, and try to limit your outdoor activity. And if you go outside and you can't see the end of the street, if you can't see a mile, if you can't see like if the bird that flies disappears into smoke, everyone should be inside and everyone should have at least some sort of a filter. And if you don't have a fancy air filter, you can always do like the towel over a fan, but having your windows closed is going to make a really big difference.
Yeah, and I think that gets to part of this issue that like I really speaks to me, which is that there is a social justice component to a
Yes.
wildfire. I know this was something you're passionate about.
Yeah, the things we have in common are definitely going to be in the passionate range.
Yeah.
Yeah, even just last weekend, we were out on a high point doing some camping, and we literally watched the smoke move and then settle in a village. Like literally like settle in this like beautiful little village that's been there for 100 years. And it really is like if you don't have an inside place to sleep, it's going to be in your face all night.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it can feel very abstract at times, but there are people in this town who can't afford an air purifier. There are people in this town who are disabled, who will struggle to get one on short notice. I mean, I think it's an issue where, like with most issues of health, especially public health of any kind, the people who are least affected are going to be the most privileged.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even just the fact that I have 2 inhalers in my bag, because I was able to go through the steps to get health coverage. More people are going to need inhalers during this time. And if you are throwing an event, please be aware and move it inside if the smoke gets bad. Please be extra, considerate of the folks in your, that you're taking care of. We also are more likely to get tired quicker because literally the oxygen. So even if it is a dance party, have more chairs than usual.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't thought about. I have been just like exhausted for the past 2 weeks, so I should have clocked that. But
And it can and just FYI, not only is it going to raise everyone's exhaustion just a little bit, and those folks that have health concerns even more so, it can also affect our attitudes because we don't have the same amount of, in certain communities we call it spoons, but it literally agitates. You're literally agitated in your body from all of the smoke, and it can make you easier to be a jerk. And so giving ourselves that extra grace and giving our friends that extra grace and like making sure we're not out there road raging is a great idea for Santa Fe.
And as a community health therapist, I can verify that the past 2 weeks have been rough for our community.
And some people are really struggling with sleep too, just with the heat. Plus, having your windows open at night for many of us is how we survive the summer. And we can't do that every night right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we hear you, we see you. Everybody, give yourself a hug, and have a handkerchief, and just in case you need to throw on that mask. Masks are always in fashion. That was the other thing I wanted to say. For events, it's always okay, especially during flu season. If you are feeling the burn or not, it's always okay to wear a mask, and it's always okay to not make fun of people for wearing masks.
Yeah, blanket rule. Never make fun of anyone for wearing a mask. Like, all my homies never make fun of anyone for wearing a mask.
Exactly, because you're not a homie if you're making fun of people for wearing masks. You can encourage people to wear them correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like don't wear your mask as an eye patch. But for those of you who maybe haven't busted your mask out in a while, try it out again. It's a great idea. And we are coming up into a pretty intense flu season, which is also going to be the continuation of COVID season. And it all ties back to the environment.
It's something that always amazes me that like so many of the public health crises we face have just like similar solutions of like community care and being nice to each other and taking.
Yeah. Don't touch people without asking, just basic. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Both of them.
One of my favorite people in the world is this disability rights activist from Portland that I'm a friend of. And she was like, if you want to know how to handle any kind of public health crisis, just follow what the disabled people in your life do, because they know all the things. And if everyone just acted like disabled or neurodivergent people, we would not have the same problems we do today. And I really think about that in moments like this, because I'm going outside and I'm like, I'm 30, I'll just like face tank smoke. And then my friends are like putting on masks and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I should probably take better care of myself. Like, I'm eating organic food and then just inhaling wildfire smoke all day. I'm like, I gotta pick a lane.
Yeah, it is okay to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Eating good food and also supporting our farmers markets right now, particularly when the SNAP benefits are tripled up. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be great for a while, but if particularly if you are a receiver of SNAP benefits, if you can get to the farmers market this weekend, they also have ones that move around. You might know more about that in a little bit. But wear your mask. It's outside. But if it's smoky, wear your mask and go get those extra vegetables. Go get they have dry pinto beans that are local that you can get for winter, and it helps.
Yeah.
And wearing the mask can help. Like doing one or two things is better than not doing anything at all.
Yeah. And for my DIY punk people, there are really cool like blueprints for air filters that you can find online. I'll have to find some and maybe I can throw some up, but I think that's a really cool thing you can do too, and a really cool thing you can do for your community. If you have a little extra cash, buy people masks, buy people air filters, do what you can.
Yeah, and you can recycle materials that you're not using anymore, if you need to, for air filters, or even just like sandbags underneath cheap doors if your landlord isn't keeping your house sealed up. Not that I'm assuming we're all renters, but so many of us are.
Not that I'm assuming we're all renters. We just probably all are, by and large. The joys of modern capitalism.
Indeed.
Cool. Any final thoughts on the fires before we move on to the ices?
Really try to be aware, and if you have a way to support, we know that there are local groups that are managing stuff. If you know about people that are getting displaced, if you know anybody in the regions where like they might have evacuations, but also just if you don't already know your neighbors, like this isn't a bad time to be like, hey, just checking in. Do y'all have enough air filter? It's like, hey, I'm over here. If your power ever goes out, come check. We can turn on some lights over here. It's not a bad time to be meeting your neighbors,
Totally.
especially with the other subject we're going to talk about, which is the exact opposite of fire.
Yes. And as a therapist, I like firmly believe that agency is the opposite of trauma, and climate change is this like huge, traumatizing, impossible feeling problem. So if you're feeling that despair, that's like a better reason to get out and know your neighbors and talk to people, because those things will make you feel better. So take care of each other's physical health, take care of each other's mental health.
Yeah, your despair is valid.
Yes.
And you by yourself cannot fix the problems like the wildfires, but you can connect and you can use that as an excuse to be supported and support other folks who probably need you, in some cases more than you need them.
Yeah. And that will help. Community helps. And in that vein, we are shifting to discussing the thing that I think is one of the most pressing community needs in Santa Fe right now, which is ICE. Those people are the worst.
Yeah, and they're freaking here.
Yep, they are here. There have been, by last count that I had, 12 arrests here in Santa Fe in the past week or two. They took families from the parking lot of La Familia, separated a family. They took families from the parking lot of a school, separating a family. They took people from Walmart, from private property. So ICE, in my opinion, is really testing our infrastructure as a community at the moment. And the question is whether these tests will succeed or fail, whether we will come together, whether we will have a response to the city and at the individual level, or whether this will just be allowed to sort of roll over, in which case we will be seeing them again very, very soon. So if this has been a problem that's on your radar, this is the moment to step up and become a part of some things. And we'll list some of those things at the end. And like you were saying, talk to your neighbors, talk to your community. We'll get into some of the more mutual aid aspects of this in a minute, but wanted to kind of dive into sort of the big picture stuff around these ICE arrests. So the first thing that I do want to talk about is when they came and they took those families, some of the people directly responding was not the city, was not the police, was not our government officials, with the exception of a few very wonderful people, but it was our local community. It was
like citizens.
Yeah, it was private citizens. It was Santa Fe Rapid Response was one of the groups that was immediately there, and it feels like such a failure of our government at the city level and at the state level that ICE got to come into town, and some of the people who responded to it was community elders who put themselves at huge, just outstanding risk.
Literally physical risk because they showed up.
Yeah, and we're like getting in the way to some extent of some of these ICE agents, and we're getting pushed around and threatened. And that was all we had, was these community groups, which I think is just such a failure on the part of the city and state.
And was that, were the folks you're mentioning, were they part of the rapid response?
Yeah, so some of them were part of the rapid response. Some of them were in community groups that are adjacent to the rapid response.
Okay.
And these interactions that they were having with ICE, as we have seen throughout the nation, are incredibly high risk. People can die at any point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, whether that's Renee Good or Alex Preddy or any of these groups and organizations that have been interacting with ICE for a long time. Some of them may surprise you, groups like the Black Lives Matter movement or folks from the indigenous rights movements like Standing Rock. Like ICE are the goons that they call in to deal with these movements sometimes.
Yeah.
And so this is an organization with a long history of incredible violence. And if this is left to civilians, people will get hurt.
People will continue to get hurt.
Yeah.
Because the folks y'all mentioned were also civilians that were trying to stand up for the folks that were more disenfranchised than themselves, which is important and vital to do, particularly if you're physically capable of getting out there and doing it. But it shouldn't just be our responsibility.
Yeah, no. And I think one of the things, so there was a meeting with 3 members of city council, Pilar Faulkner, Alma Castro, and Paul Bustamante, and our mayor the other night, 2 nights ago, where we were talking about how we should respond as a city. And there was a real highlighting of the community activists. There were lots of wonderful, really dedicated community people there. But there wasn't much of a plan outside of that. Despite the fact that throughout the course of that meeting, I think Councilor Castro was pushing for one, and her question was, what will the police be doing to help with this?
Was there any police representation there outside of just the mayor?
They showed up late and stood in the hallway.
Oh my
The police
Lord.
didn't even make it there, which is on brand because they also didn't make it to La Familia. When La Familia called and asked for assistance during the arrest, the police did not make it to La Familia.
Go ahead and elaborate on what La Familia is, because like I know it means the family,
Yeah.
but you're talking about a specific organization.
Yeah, that is true. I forget La Familia isn't as famous everywhere as it is in Santa Fe. La Familia is a wonderful community health organization that caters to our Spanish-speaking population, does a lot of work with immigrants, and they provide everything from medical to mental health care to
Family
case
planning.
management and family planning. They do a lot of wonderful work, a lot of it for much cheaper than you will be able to get anywhere else in town. So they are one of the vital pillars of our local healthcare infrastructure. And if they are under constant threat, and if people can't attend there safely, people will not be getting the healthcare they need. And so they're in a city building. This happened at a city building
city
on the
building.
river trail. And so if they can't get that support, if people are not safe to go to our city buildings and get medical care, people will, whether that's suffer great injury through things like not getting the family planning they need, or extreme mental duress from not getting the mental health care they need.
Just not getting their asthma inhaler refilled when there's smoke in the air.
Yep.
Kids are gonna not, be diagnosed with stuff that would be easily fixable when they're kids. They're not gonna get diagnosed until it's much harder to take care of. Same things with a lot. Preventative care should be the backbone of our healthcare, and that means even healthy folks knowing that they can safely go and get a check-in, get their stats. That's and there wasn't a response from the city, and I am baffled and speechless.
Yeah. And so the consensus right now in some of the immigrant communities I talk to here in town is, oh, we can't go out. We can't go to this place. We are not safe.
Stay home is on most of the messages I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Like more rest, stay home if you can.
Yeah. And that will have just like such a profoundly negative impact on so many of our neighbors, and could to some extent have been cured by the city enforcing a trespassing law there.
Yeah, just easily passing a trespassing law there. That is,
Yeah. And you see that Mayor Frey in Minneapolis, who I'm not incredibly fond of, but he passed an executive order that said ICE cannot coordinate on city property. They can't stage, they can't be there without a warrant, they can't do any of the things that they've been doing. And the mayor of Santa Fe can do executive orders. We could pass that.
that seems like such a small gesture, because that also lets, the people who are really into ICE more publicly support it,
Yeah.
and lets us know who not to support.
Yeah. Yeah. And the city council is talking about passing legislation, but that takes time. So I think if you're someone in this community, one of the first steps you can do here in Santa Fe is call on our mayor to make an executive order to ban ICE from city property.
And by what we mean by in this community is anyone in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Not just people who are concerned about being personally affected, though you very easily could be, especially if ICE is allowed to operate just freaking anywhere as widely as they'd like to be. And
if you don't think you're someone who could be impacted by ICE, I have personally encountered ICE at Black Lives Matter protests, at Palestine solidarity events. I have had friends permanently killed and injured by ICE standing up for groups of people that aren't immigrants as well as immigrants. And so whatever your cause is, ICE will be the one cracking down on it. And so you will be impacted by this.
Yeah, they are wanting to shut out anybody that is radical and anyone that is not looking the way that the current big administration wants folks to look. And something that came up in the story that Katie with 505OMATIC did was like they are one of the families that they broke apart and transported included a baby who is absolutely a natural born citizen. And this infant kid got sent all the way to Albuquerque for multiple hours without any of their adults. What is that? Like, first of all, I don't know why we would take infant children or any children away from their adults in the first place, unless the adults were the bad guys in the first place, which this is not the case.
And this really gets into the second thing that I think is important, which is these people break the law. They do not have good warrants. They trespass on private property. They do all sorts of things that they should not be doing.
Minimal training in many cases. Minimal training.
Yeah. I mean, it's bizarre. And
no conflict resolution.
No.
None.
And yeah, not a single de-escalate. I mean, yeah.
Not even how to handle their freaking weapons safely.
No, they muzzle sweep crowds all the time and stuff like that. And so it is on us as a municipality to enforce these laws. And if we don't enforce these laws, that culture of unaccountability comes here, whether we want it to or not. And you can do things like kidnap a baby for an indiscriminate amount of time. You can do things like Allegra Love, the person in Katie's story, was talking about how some of their warrants had the wrong names on them and they just still took the people.
That the baby in question, I think, was one of these stories. And I want to just to empower folks, because like for me, I'm not someone who's physically going to be great at like walking in a circle at a protest, but I can get online. I can make sure there's more attention on the news stories that are good. Something that we noticed, I also noticed is some of the ICE stories with 505OMATIC are getting a lot of bot comments that are not even from the state. If all you've got is a few minutes on your lunch break and the rest of your day is taken up with all of the other stuff you have to do to stay alive, make a positive comment. Share one of the stories that actually makes a difference. Get Allegra's name out there. Get these other business places out there.
Yeah, and specifically on Facebook.
Facebook.
It's really fascinating watching the comments on Facebook versus all the other platforms that we're on. Because on Facebook is always just the worst things and the worst replies. So if you still have your Facebook, go on and see how we can push back against that bot farm that seems to be hitting.
And if you don't have a Facebook, bless you, good job.
Yeah.
And that is certainly okay. You can send our stories out, and also the other people that are doing good work to your friends and family. You can get to it from our website. You can get to it from YouTube. You don't have to engage directly with the bots. Would you tell us a little bit more about like Rapid Response and the other organizations that are doing some direct fighting for the people who want to get more directly involved, or just throw money at them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something I like to say kind of as a lead into this, but there is space for everyone in the movement. If you are not someone who can protest, there are lots of people who want to protest and will do it. What the revolution needs as much as anything is everything from like content moderation to cooking food to people who can repair laptops to all this stuff. There's so many things you can do from the privacy of your own home. If you have money, also, you can do a lot and it can go a long way. So give money. And a few of the organizations I'd really love to shout out here. The first is Santa Fe Rapid Response, who was doing their absolute best and doing some great work the other day to document what's happening. Documenting what's happening in these arrests is huge, because if we are going to be able to criminally prosecute these people for these kidnappings, clear documentation, good eyewitness evidence, all of these other things will be vital. And also just having people show up at these arrests and be like, our community does not stand for this is huge. So Santa Fe Rapid Response, they are often taking volunteers, they are often taking funding reach out to them. They are a wonderful group of people that I personally endorse and have worked with in the past. The second thing I would love to call out is La Red, which is a project that I work on and a project run by Allegra Love, who is sort of like, if you want to talk about immigration in Santa Fe, you have to talk about Allegra. She's a wonderful, hardworking, dedicated individual and an immigration lawyer.
I was about to say she's a lawyer too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what I love about Allegra is that she's an activist first and a lawyer second in a lot of ways, and has that like ethos of, I've seen her get her hands so dirty.
She's very warm, which is not what you usually expect, but also fierce, and that is what you want and expect.
And is not too good for the hard work. So like supporting La Red is like huge. We're doing some work there every week.
Spelled?
LA space RED.
No, you know what? It made sense to me, and we will put everything in our our like comments and stuff later. But for those of you that are just catching the audio, I want to make sure.
And what La Red is a safety planning for immigrants. So it's a group that when you get arrested by ICE, there's so much stuff that you have to track, and so many things are going to fall through the cracks. And having a clear plan that other people can call in is a game changer. So like, what happens to your plants? What happens to your pets? Who is your lawyer? Who's picking up your kids? All these things are work we need to do beforehand. And so making sure that that work happens beforehand is kind of La Red's mission. So they're not doing the like direct confrontations in the same way the Santa Fe Rapid Response is, but that like background work.
It's like the holistic care, taking care of the entire person that's being affected by illegal actions by ICE.
Yeah. And so just a few of the other ones that you can volunteer with or give money to. I mean, Contigo is great. Do a lot of wonderful work here in town. I like to shout out La Familia just again. They do so much work supporting our immigrant community.
It's a really great organization.
Yeah, love them. And the other place that I wanted to shout out that I really love and support and does wonderful work with this immigrant community is Gerard's House. They are a nonprofit here in town that provides peer support, peer grief support for people who have suffered a loss.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they work in the schools, they work at their home base, and a lot of the people they work with now that have suffered a loss are kids who have faced deportation and whose parents have faced deportation. And doing grief work with children is just like absolutely grueling.
Yeah.
And these are wonderful people who have deep roots in the community and do really great work. So La Red, Santa Fe Rapid Response, Contigo, La Familia, Gerard's House, reach out to any of them, get involved, give them money, do all the things you can. Now is the moment.
And if you see something, if you have the privilege, film it.
Yeah.
If you've got the privilege that not everyone is going to have to like stand up and get in between actions, do it if you can. Least you can do, get safe, film it, get that evidence, get it to one of these organizations. And more importantly, anyone in Santa Fe, and I think this could even include our kids, because we want you all to stay when you grow up. We would love for you to be able to stay. Reach out, like directly to the mayor's office, also to your city councilors if they're not one of the three, because I know we have more than 3 city councilors in this city. If they're not one of the 3 people that was already at that meeting, reach out and ask them why they weren't there.
Yeah, and
Show
really push them to like know what they are doing, because these are accessible people. You can schedule meetings with them on the city website. Schedule meetings, sit down, be like, this is important.
Yeah,
and make sure it happens.
Send the email, send the text, encourage your folks to. And yeah, if you're able to literally sit down with them, do. And if you're able, and if you care enough, like also consider running if your people aren't loud enough.
Totally. And we are going to be putting on some trainings from Santa Fe DSA about how to run in not too long. So we'll keep you updated on that if you have questions.
I was going to ask about the training. And then were any of those organizations you were talking about also helping people train to know how to respond to ICE?
So Santa Fe Rapid Response will be doing some training.
Excellent. Yep. Excellent.
So yeah, reach out to them if you're looking for responses. And with that, I think we'll be moving on to one of our favorite topics. We both, as queer people, have been involved in a wonderful mutual aid community for a long time and really love mutual aid. And we wanted to spend some time chatting about that today in the context of both of these stories, but also in kind of a broader context. I know you were planning on doing a whole story on this and still might be.
Yeah, it's something I'm definitely interested in. Some of you might know from my reporting, I've been doing a queer series with 505OMATIC, and mutual aid is just, it's about all of us. It's just funny that a lot of the people who run some of the most successful mutual aid programs happen to be queer, and in many cases happen to be younger.
Yeah.
And when, like for example, when the pandemic hit, I was living in a tiny little spot in the South Valley of Albuquerque, and I got to get involved with Albuquerque Mutual Aid. I had access through a healthcare thing where I was getting like 20 more pounds of vegetables than I needed a week.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so I was able to drop some off, but also even just in my little circle, I knew that I had 3 friends that were not able to go to the grocery store for that stuff. And so I would just drop stuff off in mailboxes when they were expecting it. But places like Albuquerque Mutual Aid, I'm going to let you speak to the ones that are up here as well, are organizing so much higher level of that, and not just for food, but also for other like basic care stuff. And I would even say that community events are an extension of mutual aid, because it allows you to get to know the people
Totally.
that are around you. Yeah, I almost want to just start with Burrito Brigade because it's awesome. And those of you who tuned in with us last week, we talked a little bit about it last week with Alex.
Yeah. So Burrito Brigade's a group here in town that feeds about 160 to 200 people a week. We'll get into some of the details on that, but before we do, I am super interested in, this is the question I always ask anyone whenever I start talking about mutual aid, because I think if you ask 5 people who do mutual aid what mutual aid is, you'll get 10 answers. So just starting off, what is your definition of mutual aid for yourself?
So because this is one of my things that I like, I'm going to default to a slogan that I didn't come up with, and that is the solidarity, not charity. I was raised with so much shame associated with anything that might be a disability or any financial disenfranchisement. I was taught that that was probably your fault, and it was probably not cool, and it's our job to technically help. Like, just there was a lot of shame associated with needing help or wanting to get help because you couldn't help someone enough. And I've so far not cussed on this show, so how can I create? Basically, that's stupid.
Yeah.
That's unhealthy. That is part of the bad part of capitalism. It's part of and I was raised in a Christian home. That is the opposite of Christ's teachings. So I don't identify with that community anymore, but I do identify with the dude that was like, let's feed people who need it. But also, if I'm going to talk for 3 hours, let's feed everybody, because everyone will need to eat, which is why the loaves and fishes story from the Bible. He was literally talking for so long that people were getting hypoglycemic. And one of the apostles was like, bro, we're hungry. And so that wasn't even just feeding people who didn't have food at home. That was taking care of the crowd that was there. And that's part of it. It's solidarity. I want you to stay with me. Can I give you a burrito? I want you to march with me. Can I make sure you have water? I want you to be safe tonight. Can I make sure you have like a handkerchief to sleep with or a really good mask because of the smoke? It's solidarity. It's not charity. There's no pride or shame associated with it.
Yeah. I love that definition. I think that's also the one I like to run with, is the idea of like recognizing that we are mutually dependent on each other.
Yes.
And all aligned in the same struggle. That's solidarity. And then I'm going to give everything I have to that struggle and expect the same of you. And that's what mutual aid is. Yeah. So kind of in that vein, I am a founding member of a group called Burrito Brigade, but I am by no means the only member. I am just one of the ones who goes on a bunch of stuff to talk all the time, because
you're able to speak well, you're articulate, and that's a service that I'm really grateful that you provide for them too.
Why, thank you. Yeah, not being afraid of public speaking is, I think, maybe like the big skill I have in this world.
It's a huge skill. It's also part of why I've been as visible as I've been, is I'm able and down.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's important.
Yeah. And off during the days, which is when a lot of this happens.
True.
So shout out to my job for that. So with that, we feed about 200 people a week. We feed them burritos, obviously, because that's our name. and it's a really easy thing. And I think my entire political journey was defined by the people who handed me burritos in parks, and that's why I became like a punk and why I became like into anarchist mutual aid. And like it was in Portland, and those burritos were such terrible vegan burritos. So a good burrito has the option to like really change the course of someone's life.
Like the curry
Oh yeah,
chickpea?
yeah.
Yo, for those of you who might not know, chickpea curries have gotten most revolutions.
Yeah,
Like most radical people have had at least one curry chickpea burrito.
Always. Yeah.
It's evolved.
Yeah. And so we hand out those, and we hand out some medical supplies. We have clothing drives. We throw events. We do all this stuff. You hit on one of my big things, which I think events are a huge form of mutual aid, because capitalism deprives us of resources, but it also deprives us of community. So when we can have community, that is how we build solidarity. And so that's kind of our organization. You can also give me money. I always accept money. So shout out to Burrito Brigade. Chip in, be a part of what we do, come and volunteer, come and hang out with us. It's a really wonderful group. We cook Saturdays and Wednesdays. We hand out Sundays. I love every member of it. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on a website. You can reach out to us via email.
And if I need or want a burrito, or just want to come and see y'all, which park are you usually in?
So we'll be in DeVargas Skate Park on Sundays. And if you want to find out where we cook, reach out to us on Instagram or reach out to us through email, and we'll give you that information, and we'd love to have you come by.
And the skateboarding is not required. You can just show up and be a part of the community that day.
Yeah, strongly encouraged, not required.
Meet some folks. Skateboard, if you can, you should do some ollies. Otherwise, it's okay to bring a blanket.
Yeah. And the other thing I always like to throw out is we have this idea of charity where you are volunteering and you're not a part of it. You're not part of the community that needs. You can't take. But that's not solidarity. So if you come, we would love to feed you. We would love to give you whatever medical supplies you need that we have. We would love for you to come and have some clothes. Mutual aid begins at home. It begins with the people closest to us and supporting them. So you can take part if you come. Please do. So that's my personal mutual aid group spiel, but there's lots of wonderful mutual aid groups here in town. Do you have any you're a part of or really love?
To be honest, I have very much been on the fringe and trying to connect more than not. I am sometimes more doing that. I am definitely one of the folks that will default to doing stuff from home. Sometimes even when I'm not like out there in the world, and stuff like this definitely makes a difference, because even people who don't have like neurodiversity are experiencing things like depression right now, because it is depressing. There's war, there's famine, there's genocide, there's fires, there's sad bears.
Yeah, sad bears.
Yeah, and so even people who haven't struggled with things like clinical depression in the past are dealing with stuff. So like if you don't have the highest level of energy, there's still stuff that you can do. There's still ways that you can be part of the community and also get that little dopamine hit for yourself, because helping others and accepting help when we need it is healthy for all of us.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, if you're someone who is at home for various reasons, we have this model of what it means to be like an organizer in mutual aid or in revolutionary activism or in any of these things. And that model, like in all places, is based on like an able-bodied cis-het white man.
Yep.
And that's not the people who normally bring about great revolutionary change.
Nope.
So if that's not you, there's stuff you can do from home. There's stuff you can do that's low lift. Reach out to organizations like Burrito Brigade. I also want to give a shout out to the food banks here in town.
Oh yeah, and there are even some churches that do no question asks food.
Yeah.
Like just get in line and pick up a box.
Yeah. Give a shout out to Chain Breakers, Three Sisters Collective, all these groups in town that do wonderful work will have likely some space for you to come and help out. Even if you don't know how, coming with that honesty and being like, I'm at home. I have this patriarchal model of what this looks like in my head. We all do. What do you need that I can do in these ways from these spaces for these amounts of time? Because everyone needs hands and everyone has a right to be involved. So if you're like, I don't know if that's me, it is you. Please come and be a part of it.
Yeah, you can be a grandparent, you can be like a single weirdo, you can be part of a team that wants to do something. Um, there is something to be done.
Yeah.
And even on like the smallest scales, doing things like mending your clothes, um, is a tiny thing that makes big impacts for the environment. You don't have to be on camera to make a big difference.
Yeah.
Even just standing up to people, if you see somebody being a jerk to somebody who's disenfranchised at the grocery store and you're like, hey, let's not do that. If that's what you do today, that's a huge thing. And some more people might have heard you stand up for somebody who couldn't stand up effectively for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of why I love mutual aid so much is I think capitalism builds this model of learned helplessness
Yep.
where we outsource jobs to everyone else. Community safety is the job of police. Caring for our neighbors' mental health is the job of therapists. Caring for our communities is the job of social workers. All this stuff.
Yeah, well, that security guard should have said something about that guy getting bullied.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
you can say it too.
yeah. We can all be a
Market
part of
will
it.
solve all of our problems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If there's one thing we know. And so, like, being able to jump in and deprogram that learned helplessness is everything and is a practice and takes a lifetime. And whenever you start doing that, I think that's where mutual aid starts, whenever it's not somebody else's problem to fix.
Yeah, we are all here. We are all part of this. And as we're starting to kind of round some things out, is this an okay segue to talk about the living room because that's coming up next week?
Yeah, go for it.
So one of the activities that 505OMATIC does and has done now, I think you're at over a year of the living room.
Yeah,
Well,
we
for
started in March of 2020.
Yeah, so about a year and a half, and almost every month at the Jean Cocteau Cinema here in beautiful sunny Santa Fe, we take over the theater and have frequently panel discussion. Last month we had the opera, and we had a conversation about all sorts of wonderful things that weren't just the arts, and watched a movie together. But it's an opportunity to come and meet folks that are involved, meet your peers, and by peers I mean your fellow Santa Feans. There's usually a really great variety of age ranges and types of folks there. And last month we talked about singing and being trans on stage. This month we're talking about land, which also relates directly back to everything we've been talking about. We're going to be talking about, well, yeah, about land and about I think we've got a cool ad for it, and I realize I don't have the actual like. Anyway, our host is going to be one of our reporters, Devin, and we're going to have a variety of guests who are going to talk about like our public lands and what's happening and what we can do to have the right people in control of those lands because, well, things are potentially going to change, and if we're not actively fighting for them to change for the good, it's going to be a corporate hellscape.
Yeah, and that affects us right here. I mean, Chaco Canyon, Bears Ears, all these places are going to be drilled, fracked, messed with beyond any of our wildest imaginations by this administration.
Like the cultural significance alone should be enough to make this not want to happen, but the environmental impact is similar to some of the stuff that we're dealing with now. Like
Yeah.
without those plants and natural things, that's less oxygen in our air. And I don't know about you, I really like oxygen.
Love oxygen.
And I can tell you about some of the guests that we do have booked.
Thank you.
So we have a Garrett from New Mexico Wild and Trout Unlimited. Oh, he's either from New Mexico Wild or Trout Unlimited.
Both of those are really great organizations.
Yeah.
Trout Unlimited does a lot to protect our waters. Thank you, J. Alex. Anybody else?
And I think we may have someone from Sovereign Energy,
Right.
Marissa, who's been having a strong voice about Chaco Canyon. And also shout out to our contributing reporter Mateo, who's
Yes.
been doing a lot of coverage of this. I think we just posted a video this morning talking about the roadless rule being rescinded, which has to do with roads that go through public lands, that they are not allowed to do certain kind of mining and fracking within a certain range of it, but they are removing that protection from a lot of areas. So it's going to result in more mining, more fracking, more cars and trucks going through those areas, which means sometimes like chains are dragging and those things cause sparks and cause wildfires and things that can happen. So yeah, and the issue with that one is how they kept shortening the public comment period. That's a trend we're seeing with a lot of the stuff in this administration of they're shortening the public comment period or letting you know about the stuff at the last minute.
And that's something you can write all of your city officials, all of your representatives about that that's not okay. Because even if it's not a subject that you personally care about, any citizen that does should be able to comment on it. And taking away our voice is, well, part of how they subjugate all of us.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's important is nature feels so big and vast and so hard to harm. But all of the environmental protections we have today were made because of catastrophe. Were made because of acid rain, because
Something
of
went
rivers
terribly
too
wrong.
polluted to be anywhere near, because of the Dust Bowl, because of mudslides. Like every one of those regulations is written in blood.
Literal deaths of people across the board.
Yeah. And we need to have those in place and support those continuing to exist at whatever level we can. And I think this gets into, I love to frame this story about like public lands and the environment and fires through the context of mutual aid. Because I think mutual aid is a not talked about enough solution to some problems, because we get so focused on like government and policy and legislation and the nonprofit world. But I think we see in mutual aid the ways to build a society that is in community with nature, because mutual aid does not just extend to humans, right? It's mutual aid for the natural world is also a real thing.
Like planting things like amaranth, which came up at a living room 2 months ago, as opposed to planting something invasive that's pretty.
Yeah, right. And shout out to Full Circle Farms and their Intersectional Fridays. You can go and learn about some of this on Fridays, I believe at 9, it might be 10.
Full
I'm
Circle
blanking
Farms.
Right now. Full Circle Farms and Three Sisters Collective do some wonderful work teaching people about indigenous practices and the indigenous ways of being with the land and that sort of mutual aid model for the environment.
The land was well curated and mutually taken care of before the colonizers showed up.
Yeah. And we are now seeing the effect of that colonization. One of my favorite books in the world that I think about every day is a book called Climate Leviathan, which talks about how as these environmental catastrophes escalate, the natural response is either fascism or mutual support. And those will be our only two choices. You see this all over the country where communities that get huge influxes of refugees, and in some cases climate refugees, are having trouble with the political fallout of that, because if your city gets a bunch of houseless people, some people get draconian about it. And when that happens, we either embrace a ethos of care or embrace an ethos of living in an armed lifeboat and pushing everyone who can't get a seat out to sea. And we have to make a choice about which we want our community to be. And I think getting involved in mutual aid helps us build that model, helps us get in the practice of that. And I think that's something we need here in Santa Fe. So we need to get involved in mutual aid as a way to protect the environment. I also wanted us to, unless you have any final words on mutual aid and the environment.
It really is connected, and you really are part of this ecosystem that is the land of enchantment. Or if you're tuning in from somewhere else, because we are very cool and there's no reason not to.
So cool.
Like be empowered to know that you are part of this ecosystem. Like the mutual aid is, we need you to give and receive with us.
Yeah. And learn from the indigenous people in your area how to do this. They've been doing it for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. They're going to be a wonderful resource for you if you go in with humbleness and engage from that perspective.
Yeah, listening is awesome, and it's always okay to practice.
Yeah. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, I think often with an organization like ICE, we focus on governmental solutions or we focus on very aggressive solutions. and not solutions focused on aid and community support. There's a quick story I want to tell from history. I was a history teacher. The more you tune into this, the more you will learn that. And I apologize for a long historical rant, but I'm going to keep it as short as I can. There's this moment that I think about all the time, which was during the rise of fascism in Europe in the 30s. There was a strong contingent of British fascists. The King of England, for a while, was a big Hitler supporter and a fascist. Mm-hmm. And we have this example from a man named Oswald Mosley, who was head of the British Union of Fascists. He marched on London, trying to mimic Mussolini's march on Rome. And when he did that, he was met by this broad coalition of people, largely Jews and Irish people, who came together to push back the fascists. And this one act of community resistance, this big, essentially street fight on a place called Cable Street, was what broke apart the British Union of Fascists and made sure England wasn't a part of the Axis in World War II and might have changed the course of history. People like this big flashpoint moment, this big street fight, this huge thing. But the Battle of Cable Street was possible because prior generations of Jews and Irish people recognized a common cause, recognized that as Jews and as Catholics, they were outside of the mainstream British Protestant ethos, and started providing childcare and food and monetary support and enmeshed their communities. And so when Mosley marched on London, he was vilifying the Jews, but Irish people knew that community and were a part of that community and were doing mutual aid with that community. And so he couldn't create this narrative of us, good, white, British people, against the Jews. Instead, it was Irish people and Jewish people in the broader communities of both of those groups that could stand up against them and destroy that us as them. Yeah. And this was all started because two sisters started doing community mutual aid childcare across these communities. And it spiraled into this big thing that might have been what won World War II against the Axis powers.
And that is a story that isn't told enough. Like, most bullies just need to be stood up to back down. And some of those folks wind up coming to the side of what I would call, like, well, the right side of history. And thank you for sharing that. And that's something that should be looked into more. Because, like, I didn't learn that in my history classes in Texas. I can tell you that for sure. And speaking of not just history, but also the future, I want to encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to subscribe to 505OMATIC.
Yes.
We are a co-op, a local news co-op, local media co-op, as they say. And we really want to pay people for their work. We're an organization that really does value our wide variety of folks that work with us and that give us feedback. And we are supported by grants from folks who have businesses that care about us a little bit. And also from like individual membership. And I know before I was a reporter, I was on that lowest tier of subscription, and I'm still getting the emails before everybody else, and that's pretty cool. I know I can get on, our planning channels, but sometimes I just want to see the newsletter. And we're doing stuff like the action packs every week. There's a lot of news and more that we would like to be doing with you and for you as we continue to build this like low-key rebellious community of folks that care and want to be active and want to know what's going on within 5 miles of their home and beyond.
Yeah, and subscribing to local news is the best way to hear about all of this stuff. Subscribing to 505OMATIC is the best way to hear about all of this stuff, because everyone who's doing this mutual aid work is almost by definition really bad at publicity because they're very busy.
They're so busy, and not everyone is comfortable getting in front of a microphone.
Yeah.
And some groups don't have that person that's good at that.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing is if you know how to run an Instagram, some of these groups just need someone who can do those posts.
Absolutely. And so following local news organizations and following 505OMATIC lets you hear about all these things and lets you get involved, and is just like a great way to start tapping into the sense of mutual aid. And to some extent, 505 is a mutual aid organization, in my opinion.
I think that's a great part of how they came together, was seeing that there was a need and stepping up to help meet it for our community.
Yeah. And being mutually supported by the community and supporting the community is a big part.
And another phrase we've been using lately is movement journalism.
Movement
We've been really
journalism.
wanting to cover a lot of the all the various movements, mutual aid organizations, nonprofits, etc., that are really trying to improve things for our neighbors.
Yeah.
So,
And something that we're, I think you can do it now, but something we're going to be adding is like you can gift subscriptions for your, like, if you have anyone that you know isn't going to have that extra 50 because they've got to put it towards their school books or whatever, you will be able to start gifting subscriptions to 505OMATIC if that is the way that you're able to help and help spread that word and knowledge.
Yeah. So, highlights: mutual aid can and will save the world. It will save us from the environmental catastrophe. It will save us from ICE. It will save us from the rise of
It'll
fascism.
save the bears.
It will save the bears. Mutual aid with bears. Solidarity with bears. So get involved in your local mutual aid groups. Get involved in these organizations. Do the community work, because it's not going to be these big systems that save us. And that's true of everything from local journalism being, in my opinion, way better than the New York Times, to the people doing the rapid response having a better infrastructure of support for these communities than our police and our state police. So this bottom-up mentality, wherever you can, engage in that, do so.
And if you subscribe, you can get our blog posts where I complain about the New York Times.
Oh God, I need to read those. Complaining about the New York Times is my favorite sport.
Yeah, there was this whole thing that we're not going to talk about today because we're wrapping it
Yep.
up, but I recommend checking it out. And thank you to J. Alex, the technologist, for producing
Shout out
us
to our
today.
producer.
Thank you to Shark. And we also had Warren here earlier, and we've got some great support. There's going to be some good stuff for y'all to check out.
And shout out to you for all the wonderful work you do as a journalist and community member.
Thank you so much. It's been neat to be in a more community-based stuff. I used to work for a newspaper, and that was a little different.
and
Yeah.
we're trying to make sure to do this every Friday at 2:00. So tune in next week.
From 2 to 3.
From 2 to 3.
Yep, we'll catch you next Friday at 2:00. Thank you all for being here. See you next week. Yeah, theme song pending. We'll just make Alex sing it
on
every time.
Fridays from the Vital Spaces podcast room. It's 505OMATIC Fridays. See you